So that's Herman Mashaba speaking to me just a little earlier. Let's continue the conversation now with political analyst and Power to Truth host here on eNCA, Professor JJ Tabane. JJ, what Herman Mashaba is saying is incredibly serious, because obviously when someone goes and lays a charge at a police station of corruption and bribery, you go, where's your evidence? He's got the proof. This councillor is saying, I was offered this bribe. He's written it down. He's prepared to stand by it. How dirty is Joburg politics likely to get?
Well, how dirty is our politics generally? This is not a surprise. I'm not surprised at all, because the ANC wants to be mayor of Johannesburg. Dada Morea wants to be mayor of Johannesburg like yesterday. All right? And there's no other reason other than to steal. The elections are coming. Coffers of the ANC, we all know, are empty. Even if their president's hiding money in the mattress, but they can't even pay their staff. So it means that officially the coffers are empty, and the city of Joburg, the biggest city in Africa, is sitting with a pot of gold. Excuse the pun, right? So the ANC is going that they have bribed. I mean, this is something that you would have to expect in the West of Towns, because they know that without swinging the votes illegally, right, they are not going to make it. Let me tell you why. Because even the opposition, if you just take 3 examples, I'm not talking in general terms. Cope, right? As we speak now, this past weekend, we're having a discussion about recalling Colin Makubele, because no sooner was the vote finished, she was on television saying, I'm the acting speaker. Wait, there's no such a thing in the law. You are acting speaker during a meeting if the speaker is gone outside or is not there for the day. You are not acting speaker as a title. And she says, I'm going to be acting speaker, and so on, because she and the ANC had made a background deal that says, give me speaker, I'll give you mayor.
Well, I mean, it's right? So interesting you bring this up, because Heidi and I were chatting before the show, and she says, here's Dennis Bloem of Cope at the police station with Herman Mashaba and the coalition that runs the city, laying this charge. But look, here's Colleen Makubele saying what she's saying. She doesn't support the mayor. What is going on in Cope? I mean, we had this discussion last week.
Absolutely.
Bearing in mind what's going on in Cope, do you think William Adisha will be able to rein her in?
No. Probably William Adisha would probably, want to support them, because on my show last week, he couldn't. I said, do you want to be speaker? Why do you want to be speaker with 1 seat? And then he had a very quick answer to say, no, in Tswane, there's a speaker there with 1 seat, right? Because I was trying to say, this is power hunger. Because here's somebody who's already chair of chairs, and inexplicably means she's overseeing all the chairpersons of the committees with 1 seat. That's not enough. She now wants to be, she's short of wanting to be a mayor, right? So she wants to be the speaker. So that's the Cope factor. And Cope, as we speak, are talking about, in fact, the discussion was, is this, we either discipline Makubele or we pull out of the coalition. We can't have both.
No, you can't.
Because it makes no sense, right? So I'm sure even in the chaotic stage that Cope is in, sense will prevail to say, this cannot happen. Colin can't do this. Go and have a deal outside with some people, because she thinks, as she was saying on television broadly, that no, she's not representing the party when she's there. She's representing the citizens. I mean, however, there's a coalition agreement.
Exactly. But it was interesting, during my discussion with Herman Mashaba, we were talking about the fact that shouldn't those key roles of mayor, speaker and chief whip actually be split among the coalition partners? And he said that that's what they want to do. He is going to now push for that. And I suppose it makes sense, because then every party, or a lot of the parties, have a stake in the game, whereas up to now it's been the DA dominating those positions. He also spoke about the fact that they have been unhappy with what the DA has done. They weren't happy with Vasco da Gama, but they were going to stick with him on the agreement that the DA would manage it. This is exactly the nuts and bolts of the coalition that needs to be solidified, isn't it?
Yes. Let me put it this way. You see, when people go to their polls, they actually, despite that they didn't get it the last 2 elections, they actually want some sort of stability. If you have a non-functional government, because power has been split so bad that we don't even know who's in charge, it doesn't work. Imagine it, just take the national scenario, where the ANC wins elections, the 400 seats in the legislature. Part of their job is to govern. They come with a mandate, and to govern. But to govern effectively, you need your legislature on your side, because you pass laws, you pass bylaws in terms of local government, etc. Right? And your executive, which is a handful of people, go and implement that. Right? Next time, if you win the election with a landslide, you will not even think twice. The ANC won't think twice, and they have seen it. They have governed this city for many years, right? Where they have the full authority, so they can pass the necessary laws to do what is necessary, and the executive to implement. Now, if you are going to say, let's share power and let's distribute it so badly that nobody is in charge, you are going to have a dysfunctional city. That's the take that I have. Rather, just agree who amongst your coalition partners is actually going to be the leader, and the others then take a bit of roles. But there needs to be somebody you can blame. Now you don't even know who to blame. They're going to end up blaming each other for the next 5 years. That we can't afford. And I think that's the only flaw in that system. If you just apply to national and think what's going to happen, you have a cabinet of 35 with there's almost, maybe 19 parties in parliament. If every one of them had 2 seats, then you have nobody to blame.
So both options are problematic.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen on Wednesday? Do you think Mpho will survive? Herman Mashaba suggesting that they were caught a little bit unawares by what happened last week with Vasco da Gama, but that's not going to happen again.
Just an example, there's a party called Independent Movement. I think they've got 2 seats. They have issued a media statement to say they're going to fire their councillor who voted without a mandate. COPE clearly didn't give Colin a mandate, otherwise they won't be having a debate about it. The only people who came out to say we gave the mandate is ATM. All the other people in the coalition did not give the mandate, so they have every right to fire the councillors and replace those councillors with people who are going to follow the party mandate. So I don't see Mpho getting out of office in this context. If the Mashaba came today, for example, say, we don't support the councillors voted the way they were supposed to, I'll understand. And if, as I believe, the ANC tried to bribe its way, I don't think they would only have targeted action as councillors. I think they may have targeted others as well. God knows which ones, because people are not going to tell us if they are given 1 million. I mean, the councillor salaries are not so great. So people will always want to supplement their salaries with nefarious things. So I don't think she's going to lose power. I don't think she should lose. But we're tired of these inconsistencies in government, with government changing hands every 2 years. It cannot happen.
I mean, it comes down to how the city is going to be run. Mpho, it's only been 10 months or so. How is she doing? Because there's a lot of potholes and some people are going, come on. Is she doing a good job? Is it too early to say?
I think it's too early to say, but there's a report, I'm told, that's coming out tomorrow or Wednesday that looks at the 10 months. They couldn't even wait for a full year, because they have to assess now to say, from a governance point of view, from a coherence of the team that is working there. I understand that the MMCs, even those from other opposition parties, have a reasonable level of respect for her, and they're able to pull together. But there are others with an extreme view that says, she's a puppet of Helen Zille, and we are run from Cape Town and so on. I don't believe any of that stuff. I've had conversations with her that convinced me that she is her own right. For example, just to assemble the executive, you'd have thought that she would fold their arms and the DA will tell her in Cape Town that nothing of the sort happened. She had to be convinced on every MMC, even those who were coming from other parties, that those people are the right people. For me, I thought that showed initial leadership. You'd remember during the elections that, and this doesn't happen usually in political parties, where she had enough courage to contradict John Steenhuisen on that Tabane racism incident. You understand? I mean, you get fired for such things, if you are in a party like the DA that is centrally run, that is, a centralized machinery. They may pretend otherwise be a Democrat. The idea is they can be very, very centralized. So I think the jury is still out. I think I would judge better if I had a report of exactly what she has done, because obviously she's not going to report every 2 minutes when she comes onto the public. We have invited her and Dada to come and have a debate. It was meant to happen last week. It won't happen this week, but I think it will happen next week if they are all still in office. Right? If Dada wants to be mayor, at least we should hear what he thinks he can do differently. But I think at that point, Sally will be able to judge whether, in fact, even the 10 months she has done better than if we had another mayor of some sort, right, to do the things that she has managed to do. I get a sense that there's at least general respect amongst the coalition. It's not always been cozy. I've seen letters flying around where, you know, the coalition were pulling in one direction. That's why even these rumblings were not exactly unexpected. And the ANC wanted to take advantage of that to say, let's drive a wedge in the coalition. Then they'll be left with no choice but to make ANC mayor.
Right. Very quickly, what's coming up at 8 o'clock on your show?
Now, 20 years ago, almost to the day, we had the World Summit on Sustainable Development in South Africa. It's amazing. It's been 20 years. So today we're looking back to say, how have we done through what is called the Johannesburg Plan of Implementation? Former Minister Vali Musa, a couple of other people who are involved from business, civil society, will be debating what should be the next 20 years plan, particularly around climate change and how does that affect the economy. So we're going sustainability tonight and reflect on the World Summit that happened 20 years ago here in South Africa.
It's an important issue. It's been debated 20 years ago. What's changed? Thank you very much, Prof. JJ Tabane. And of course, he'll be back on your screens at 8 o'clock this evening with his show, Power to Truth.